Lawrence Heritage State Park. Again, my apologies for the lack of the air conditioning, but we're aware of it and hopefully it'll get taken care of before we get too deep into summer now. So, my name is Rich Andover. I'm a summer interpretive tour guide here at Lawrence Heritage. And today begins the Bring Your Own Lunch program on consecutive Wednesdays now for the summer, except for July 1st. There won't be one on July 1st because I'll be too busy getting ready for the old-fashioned 4th of July celebration. So, but other than July 1st, these will now go until the end of August, okay? So, so just a few things before we get started. The flyers are out if you're interested in what's going on here this summer. So on the back table and then on the trunks downstairs in the outer lobby, we have the different color-coded flyers, okay? So the green flyer lists my walking tours, at least through June. They'll change a little in July. We'll put out an updated flyer after. The yellow sheet talks about the June lunch program, and then when we get more towards the end of this month, I'll have the July lunch scheduled on the flyer. The pink one lists the old-fashioned 4th of July celebration coming up, which I'm expanding it to 2 days this year because it's the milestone 20th old-fashioned 4th of July for us here, and because it's the 250th birthday of the United States, I decided to enhance it this year, expand it. So again, everything's on the pink flyer, but Friday, July 3rd at 11 a.m., Abigail Adams will be here to talk to us about the American Revolution, and then we'll have lunch here. And then Saturday, July 4th, we will have a style jazz band out of Methuen here, Live Oak Jazz Band, and they'll be performing at 11 a.m. outside. And then at 12 noon, we'll have the usual, those of you who've been here for it before, flag raising, the brief oration, the singing of the national anthem, the parade around the park, the public reading of the Declaration of Independence, a nice buffet luncheon, and then the raffle prizes. So we should be done around 3 o'clock, leaving plenty of time for evening activities on the 4th. Okay. So, and the blue flyer lists my boat tours. However, I have to tell you, and it's been incredible so far, here we are June 10th. The reservations began June 1st for the boat tour, and I have to tell you, they're all booked now. They're fully booked. I guess that's yes, right. It's a good problem to have, I guess, right? Okay. So if any of you are interested in my boat tours, what we're doing now is we're putting people on a wait list. So if we get any cancellations, we'll call you. Okay. But it's just incredible how they already filled up like in a week or so. So that's a little bit about the tours this summer and what's happening here. Okay. All right, so today we'll take a look at the early history of Andover. Since it is kind of a milestone anniversary year for the town of Andover, 380 years, I thought we'd look at its early history. Next Wednesday, I'll be talking about Methuen, which is having a big anniversary birthday this year, 300 years this year for the town of the city of Methuen. So next Wednesday we'll take a look at Methuen history. And then on June 24th, Tom Spitaleri, some of you know him, is a local historian. He works at the Buttonwoods Museum in Haverhill. He'll be talking about Haverhill's connection to the American Revolutionary War. Okay. And then, again, in a week or two, I hope to have the July schedule ready. All right? So let's take a look at the synopsis first, and then we'll go through the questions. Andover, settled in 1642 and incorporated in 1646, was named for Andover, England, from where some of the first residents of Andover, Mass. Originated. And in 1634, the Massachusetts General Court, also known as the legislature, set aside a portion of land in what is now Essex County for an inland plantation, because back then it was mostly right along the coastline that was being settled. Okay, so they set aside a portion of inland land for a plantation settlement, including parts of what is now Andover, North Andover, and South Lawrence. In order to encourage settlement, early colonists were offered 3 years, get this, for an incentive, they were offered 3 years immunity from taxes, okay? So you come to what became Andover, and for your first 3 years, you don't have to pay property taxes. Wonderful, right? That's a good incentive, I think, right, to settle there. And they were excused from paying any kind of levies and services, okay, apart from military service that they had to do, okay, but everything else was free, all right, so that encouraged settlement in what became Andover. Now, the first permanent settlement in the Andover area was established in 1642 with a group of settlers from Newbury and Ipswich, okay, so the first settlers in Andover made their way there, okay, to settle that new inland plantation from Newbury and Ipswich. And the first recorded town meeting was held in 1656 in the home of settler John Osgood, as in the Osgoods of North Andover, okay, and in what is now North Andover. The old burying ground in what is now North Andover in the old town center marks the center of early Andover. Okay, so the very early days of Andover, when it was settled, would have been the current Old Common now, the old town center in North Andover.
That cemetery that is that the one?
Here, take it back up. You walk right into this one.
Yeah. Is that the one just up from the church, or is that the one down by Kittredge Farm?
Okay, well, the one by the Unitarian Universalist on Parish, the traffic circle is there now.
Just
Up the hill there, right?
Okay.
Right. That's what I'm referring to, right? Okay. So,
yes, the question was that old burying ground, okay, that was originally Andover Center. That's the one right by the traffic circle by the North Parish Unitarian Universalist Church. Okay, so yes. Right. Due to shifting population, in 1709, the General Court, again, what we know as the legislature, divided Andover into 2 parishes, North and South, while still remaining as one political unit. Okay, so in 1826, a 3rd parish was established, West Parish, as in West Parish Church, now Lowell Street and Reservation Road. Okay, with the population growing, Andover divided into 2 separate political units in 1855. Okay, so Andover was assumed by the West and the South parishes, while the name North Andover was given to the North Parish. Okay, so interestingly, when looking at today's geographic boundary between Andover and North Andover, if you ever look at a map, a local map, okay, very interesting. North Andover, despite its name, is actually east of Andover. Okay, but back then, because of the way parishes were organized, like kind of like what we would call neighborhoods today, that's how it came out. Okay, but on a physical map today, on a map, physically, North Andover is east of Andover. Okay, so all right. So how much do we know about the early history of Andover? Right. Okay. Here we go now. Your favorite part of today here, right? Okay. Okay. So, let's get my notes here. So, number 1. So, which 2 gentlemen purchased land from the Native Americans in 1646 that became the town of Andover? Okay, anybody want to share their answer with us?
A.
No, I'm sorry, not A.
Oh, I gotta say D.
No, not C either.
I say D.
D? No. No.
B.
So it would be C, a C, C, right. I didn't hear anybody say C. Okay, so it would be C, yeah. Okay, so Benjamin, no wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm all B, I'm sorry, B. So I'm saying, those of you who said B, I'm sorry, you're correct, okay? Yeah, it's the E. Okay, so, right. Okay, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. So, Reverend John Woodbridge and Edmund Faulkner, okay? So, those, so B. So those were the two gentlemen, okay, who purchased land from the Native Americans in order to begin what we know today as the town of Andover. Okay, so, all right, now, so by the way, yes, we're getting to that. Yes, okay, yes. Hang on. Yep. So. I know, really. I'm telling you, it's the heat. It's making everybody act differently. Okay. So, by the way, when Reverend Woodbridge and Edmund Faulkner bought the land, as you may know, it was known as Coshickawick. Okay. In Native American, that means, or in English, that means place of great cascade. Okay, because of like these small rapids there, the waterfalls on the Shawshene River and nearby tributaries. Okay, so and the Native American chief was Custamache. Okay, that was his name, Custamache. Yeah. Okay, and he sold them Coshickawick, all right, place of great cascade. Okay, now so. Number two, which leads to what Sharon is asking, okay? The method of payment for the land referenced in number one consisted of which of the following? A. So A is the correct answer. Yeah, it depends on your needs at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
What is it?
So,
Create.
yeah, sure, okay. So, when Reverend Woodbridge and Edmund Faulkner purchased what became Andover from the Native Americans, okay, it cost 6 English pounds and an overcoat, okay? Not bad, I don't think, for that time, okay? So 6 British pounds plus an overcoat, all right? Now, if, now, so for a long time, okay, as you may know, the Andover town seal, okay, if you ever looked at it, pictured Custamache, okay, holding the 6 British pounds, like a bag of money, okay, with an overcoat hanging over his arm, okay, and that was to depict the transaction at that time, okay. Now, in 2024, Andover, along with other communities, decided that, oh no, we can't, because of political correctness and what have you, right? Oh, we got to change the town seal, okay? So for the past 2 years, okay, this is the town seal now. So, old town hall, right?
Why does it say Chippewa?
Okay, because that's, well, Coshickawick, okay, was the original name for Andover, and this is a variation of it, like Lake Coshickawick now we call it, okay, but the spelling was a little different back then, Coshickawick. All right, so, yeah.
But wouldn't the showing comes as a good, for so many that they sometimes use, show that it came from them?
True, right, it's the historical, right, the history, right, yeah, yeah.
Well, apparently, those who showed up, they probably had a special town meeting, I think, like the one coming up next Tuesday. You know. Well, enough, a special interest, enough people spoke up, the local minority, and this is what we got. So, I don't know, that's what the majority wanted, you know what I mean? So, Old Town Hall, now that's on the seal, okay? That's what it is. So, well, I guess not then, you know, people, over time, people have been changing attitudes about history, you know what I mean? So, yeah. It wasn't up to me, so.
Okay, so, all right, number 3. So, industrialist William Wood, who, as you probably know, owned the American Woolen Company, which was in control of 2/3 of the mills here in Lawrence, or in its prime. He developed and gave the name Shawshene Village to the area in and around Shawshene Square. Okay, but what was the original name for Shawshene Square? No, not C. Not B. D. D. Okay. Yeah. Fry Village. Fry. Yeah. Okay.
Where they get that?
Okay. So I'll explain now. Okay. All right. So why is it Fry Village? Okay. So it's named after Colonel James Fry, all right, who commanded the Essex County Militia, all right, and on April 19th, 1775, okay, he led that militia in a march, okay, to Concord and Lexington, all right. So because of that, that's how originally that area was known in his honor as Fry Village. Okay, and he also, besides marching from Andover on foot, right, to Concord and Lexington to fight there on what has become Patriots Day now, what we know as Patriots Day, right? He also fought in and was wounded at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Okay, so because of all that, that area that is now Shawshene Square originally was named Fry Village. Okay. So, all right. Okay. Number 4.
They have a little contest now, Fried House.
Oh, yeah.
Not a contest, it's
Not a-
a problem.
Yeah, that's right, I've been reading about
They
it.
want to take it.
Yes, right.
And unfortunately,
It looks
they're
like it's
waiting
going
for
to
somebody
happen.
to come forward.
Yeah, I know, it's too bad. I've been following the articles in the paper. Oh, it is, I know,
Okay, number 4. Andover has had several presidential visits over the years. Which one of these visiting presidents wrote the following in his diary about Andover? Quote, about sunrise I set out, crossing the Merrimack River, over to the township of Bradford. As we journeyed, I took note of the surrounding scenery. The country from Haverhill, where I had slept the night before, to Andover is good and well cultivated. In and about Andover, which stands high, it is beautiful. All right. So, which president do you think said that? No, not C, but. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Yes, it is C. My apologies again. C. Yes, C. Right. George Washington. Yes. Okay. So yes, George Washington. Okay. Yes. Okay. So yes. Okay. Good. So some of you know the story. Abbott Tavern at 70 Elm Street. okay, which is now privately owned, okay? But in the past, it had many different uses, including being Andover's first post office, okay? So Washington, when he arrived in Andover that morning, okay, I believe it was November 5th, 1789, he had breakfast at Abbott's Tavern at 70 Elm Street, okay?
Is that in
Andover, yes, yes, on the bend there, like if you're at Elm Square and you're going to Merrimack College, on the left, yes. Yes, right, okay. So, yeah, so he had breakfast there. That's their claim to fame there. But again, you know, it was the first post office. It served other purposes as well, okay? But for a long time now, it's been in private hands. It's a residence now, you know, with obviously a lot of historic value, so.
Is that the house that was on?
Oh,
Andover? Yellow.
I don't know.
It always looks like.
I can't remember.
Maybe I'm coming from the wrong direction.
It's like rectangular, very like square-looking rectangular. It's built close to the street,
Yeah.
and right on that, you know, bending.
There were two cheeses, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's probably been, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, quite old, yeah, yeah. So what's that?
Well,
Well,
it's yellow.
yeah. Right, Washington Street is on the opposite side, Summer Street, Whittier Street, they're all on the opposite side of it. Yeah, when you're heading to Merrimack, yes, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, okay. All right, number 5. Oh yeah, so by the way, just to back up a little, so in the fall of 1789, Washington embarked on a goodwill tour of the eastern seaboard, okay? Back then, pretty much, our country only consisted of the eastern seaboard, okay? And he concentrated most of his time on New England here, okay? Because we were a Federalist country, and Washington was a Federalist, even though he didn't call himself that, but in theory, he was a member of the Federalist Party, okay? So, and New England was a big Federalist area. So he spent a lot of time during that goodwill tour here in New England, okay? So, so that's what brought him to Andover, all right? And then, so I'm just checking my notes here. So yes, it was November 5th, 1789, at breakfast at the Abbott Tavern, okay? And then he departed with Samuel Phillips, another famous name in Andover, okay, Phillips Academy, the postmaster and all that. He departed with Phillips on horseback to Lexington and Concord because he wanted to see, and who could blame him, right? He wanted to see where the American Revolution began, right? So President Washington is like, you know, take me to Concord and Lexington. I want to see where it all began. Okay, so Mr. Phillips accompanied him after breakfast in Andover to head down to Concord and Lexington. Okay, so, and by the way, as far as those other choices I gave you there, those other presidents did visit Andover. Okay, so all of them did come briefly. Andrew Jackson, okay, came actually with his vice president, Martin Van Buren, on July 1st, 1833, on his way to Harvard. He was getting an honorary degree there at graduation and stopped by Andover on his way to Harvard University. Okay, there was a big parade downtown, and he addressed students and citizens from horseback at Phillips Academy. If you know where the Carolyn Tower is now, at Salem and South Main Streets at Phillips, okay, that used to be a training ground for the troops there during the American Revolution, okay, and beyond. So President Jackson addressed students and townspeople from where the Carolyn Tower now stands, okay. So Franklin Pierce As you may know, his wife, Jane, had relatives in Andover. Okay, 46, I believe it was 26 Central Street is where Jane's sister, Mrs. Aiken, was living. Okay, so supposedly Franklin Pierce, when he was president, and his wife Jane made trips to Central Street to visit her family, the Aikens. Okay, however, I checked with Elaine Clements. She's the director of the Andover Center for History and Culture, basically the Andover, History Society. Okay, and she said that there is no evidence actually that Pierce visited Andover when he was president. Okay, she couldn't locate any evidence. So there's this thing about 46 Central Street being the Pierce Summer White House, but according to the Andover Center for History and Culture, not so. All right. Yes, okay. So, yes, thank you for reminding me, Sandy. Some of you know the story, right? January 6th, 1853, the Pierces had been visiting Jane's family on Central Street, a Christmas visit, okay? And then January 6th, 1853, President-elect Pierce and his wife Jane and their son Benny were getting ready to head back home to Concord, New Hampshire, where they were living, okay? So they took the train out of Andover Station, okay? And then shortly after the train departed the station, this would be the one on Havel Street now by Brookstone Square, Andover Landing, okay? An axle broke on the train, okay? It looks like there was a rock on the tracks or something like that, debris. The axle hit it, it broke, and it sent the train car down an embankment, okay? The only casualty, okay, was 11-year-old Benjamin Pierce, all right? Everybody else survived on the train car, okay? So now Jane, who was, a little unstable already, okay? This really sent her over the edge, okay? And she felt that this was the price, according to God, okay? She thought that this was the price that the Pierce family had to pay now in order for Franklin to become president of the United States, okay? Their son had to die now, all right? She thought, coming from God, okay, that this was the price they had to pay for him becoming president now, all right? So this really, again, she was already on shaky ground, okay, mentally. This really sent her over the edge. So for the first 2 years of the Pierce administration, 1853 and 1854, she dressed in black the whole time, stayed in her room upstairs in the White House, never came downstairs for any functions or events or anything like that. Only starting in 1855, the third year of the Pierce administration, did she finally kind of lighten up a little and started interacting with the public, all right? Yes, right. And Pierce, who was a drinker to begin with, this only made it worse for him as well, all right? So. Yes.
To cheer him up and make him feel better, they're going to take him together, they're going to help him try.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah. So Pierce's college roommate at Bowdoin was, as Lori was saying, was Nathaniel Hawthorne. Okay. So when Pierce was running for president in 1852, Hawthorne wrote a biography. I actually have it at home in my presidential memorabilia collection. Hawthorne wrote a campaign biography on Pierce to help get him elected, which worked. He did get elected, yeah, much to Jane's dismay. She hated D.C. She did not, she knew her husband was ambitious, but she did not want to go to Washington, though, So, all right, and then Calvin Coolidge, right? Silent Cal. In In 1928, he came to Andover, and he was the headliner for the 150th anniversary of Phillips Academy. Okay, so he addressed students and faculty, townspeople, and he was escorted from the train station. This one would have been now, I believe, the one down on School Street, okay, by St. Augustine's. And a group of Boy Scouts escorted President Coolidge from the train station to Phillips Academy. And there was an estimated 20,000 people lining the street there from School Street up to Phillips Academy where he spoke. An estimated 20,000 people lined School Street there to see President Coolidge. Okay. So, all right. Now, let's see. Okay, so number 6. All right, 5. Oh, sorry, 5. Okay. This person was purchased as an infant at the Salem slave market in 1747. Then he purchased his own freedom in 1769, joined the Continental Army, and fought at the Battle of Bunker Hill, and was nominated for a citation by the Provincial Congress for his bravery. Who was he? Anybody? A. Yes, A. Salem Poor. Okay, A. Salem Poor. Okay, as in Poor Street in Andover off of Shawshank Square. All right. Now, he purchased his freedom for 27 British pounds from John Poor. He was a domestic servant for John Poor, all right? And he was issued an official manumission. In other words, you know, you're now hereby released from servitude, from slavery, okay? Now, as far as that citation goes, see how I put he was nominated for a citation? We don't have any historical evidence that Poor actually received the citation, okay? You know how, like, you can be nominated for an Academy Award, but you may not receive it, though, right? Okay, so the same thing with Poor. We don't have any evidence that he actually received the award from Congress, okay? But his fellow soldiers and superiors thought enough of him to at least nominate him. Okay. Now, however, in 1975, the Postal Service did issue a 10-cent stamp, okay, a bicentennial stamp in his honor. Okay. So he made it onto a postage stamp. So, okay. All right. Number 6. This writer moved from Brunswick, Maine to Andover and stayed 12 years while her husband was a professor at the Andover Theological Seminary, which was later absorbed by Phillips Academy. Okay? She was the most talked about and most unpredictable character in town, okay? And received so much more mail than anyone else in town that Andover had to hire an extra postman, okay, just to handle the volume of mail that she was receiving. Okay? Now, do we know who this amazing woman was? What's that? B. Right, B. Okay. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Yes. Okay. So, now, some of you may know the Stowe House in Andover. If you're on Bartlett Street, okay, like at the Doherty Middle School, and you're going up Bartlett Street, all right, when you get to the end of Bartlett and you're facing Phillips Academy, on the left, there's a big rectangular stone house there, all right? That is where Harriet Beecher Stowe lived, okay? Now, oh, okay, there's a marker there, a sign, okay, yeah, okay, good, okay, good. Now, they needed, she and her husband, the professor, needed that big house because they had 6 children, all right? Not too uncommon for back then, all right? 6 children, they needed a big house, all right? So now it's a dormitory. Currently, it's a dormitory for Phillips Academy, all right? They remodeled it, obviously, all right? Now, Harriet Beecher Stowe's famous book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, right? We've heard of it. Some of us maybe had to read it at school, right? Okay. It was already a bestseller when she arrived in Andover, all right, in 1852. They were there from 1852 to 1864, all right? So it was already a bestseller when she got here. And then she wrote several more books when she was living in Andover, all right? And as you may know, she was an abolitionist, felt very strongly about slavery, that it should not exist, okay? So being the flamboyant character that she was, with a lot of influence, okay, she did host some famous abolitionists at her house at 80 Bartlett Street. William Lloyd Garrison, Frederick Douglass, and Sojourner Truth, okay, all came to Andover, spoke in Andover at the invitation of Harriet Beecher Stowe, okay? And she is buried now. Lori and I have visited the grave there. She is buried at the cemetery at Phillips Academy, okay? So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He said, so you're a little lady that's the cause of all this trouble.
Yeah. That's what happens when you're an author. You got to be careful what you write about, right? You know, it could elicit some strong feelings, right? As the example that Lori gave us there with President Lincoln, all right? So, yeah. Okay. All right, very good. Now, number 7. This church was established in 1846 by members of South Church, West Parish, the Methodist Society, and we'll throw in 3 Baptists as well for good measure, right? Who felt that their churches were not taking an active stand against slavery. Okay, they wanted them to, but they weren't. What was this new church that began in Andover? C, right? Free Christian, yes, on Elm Street, across from Palma's Restaurant. Okay, right? And next to the Doherty Insurance Agency. Okay. Yep. So, now the prime mover behind this was William Jenkins, okay, as in Jenkins Road in Andover, where Harold Parker State Forest was located. Okay? So William Jenkins, he withdrew. He was a parishioner at South Parish, okay, but he withdrew as a parishioner from South Parish because it refused to take a stand, an active stand against slavery. All right, and Mr. Jenkins is like, no, I want you to come out more forcefully against slavery, okay? But the minister said, no, we gotta play it cool, we're not gonna come all out, But it's like, well, all right, fine, if you're not going to denounce slavery the way I think you should, then I'm leaving, okay? So, and Mr. Jenkins was concerned in general, not just about South Parish, but that American churches, okay, were sheltering some slaveholders and were sympathizers of slavery, all right? So he was getting kind of turned off by American churches in general, all right? He thought they were too cozy, with slaveholders and not coming out enough against slavery, okay? So that's what led him to found Free Christian, all right? And it was, if you want the exact date, it was April 5th, 1846, that Free Christian was founded, okay? And at the beginning, because they didn't have enough money to purchase their own church, okay, they were meeting in people's houses, okay? Those of you who've been to my talk, whatever it was, on the Irish here in Lawrence, okay, you may recall that when the Irish immigrants were coming here, and just to sidetrack a little now, and they didn't have enough money to build St. Patrick's and the Immaculate Conception, they were holding Mass in people's houses, okay? So the first Mass in Lawrence took place at 7 Newton Street off of Shattuck, okay? It was a private home, and that's how the Irish were doing it here originally in Lawrence, just having itinerant priests celebrating Mass in their houses, okay? So the same thing with pre-Christian, all right? First they were having services in people's houses until they got enough money. So originally their church was on Railroad Street. It's gone now. And then the church that you see now on Elm Street was built in 1908, okay? So the current one has been there since 1908 now, okay? So, all right, number 8. Which patriotic song was written in 1831 by Samuel Smith while he was a student at the Andover Theological Seminary? Any guesses?
I said C,
No,
I'll
not
say
yet.
A.
No, it's not C or A.
not B.
B, yeah, okay.
B.
So it would be B, okay. My country, 'tis of thee, also known as America, okay.
Now, they sing that same kind of song with Queen in the
Yes, it's modeled after
Was it?
that.
That's older
You're
than
right.
this one.
Yes, I was going to mention that now. Very good, Carol. Yes, right,
Yes, okay. So, let me elaborate on that a little, okay? So, Mr. Smith now was only 23 years old at the time, okay, when he wrote America. And he was living in a boarding house while he was a student at Andover Theological Seminary. And the boarding house, which is still there, and it's now a dormitory for Phillips, is 147 Main Street, okay? So if you're going up Main Street in downtown Andover towards Phillips, and you get to Wheeler Street on your left and School Street on your right, okay? It's one of those white houses right before the lights there, before you get to School Street and Wheeler Street, okay? So 147 Main.
Right-hand side.
On the right-hand side.
Right, on the right-hand side. I think it's the second house on the right before you get to the stoplights there, okay? So it's known as the America House, okay, and that's why, okay? So now his song was immediately criticized, and this is what Carolyn kind of what I'm leading to, what you brought up, right? So his song was immediately criticized for being the same tune as the national anthem of Great Britain, okay? But nonetheless, it became popular, all right? So despite the criticism, it became a very popular song, okay? And as you may know, I remember like when I was in school on Prospect Hill, we would recite it in school all the time, you know? So I know like my generation, we would recite it in school. I don't know if nowadays if they still do or not, you know. And then Mr. Smith went on to become a Baptist minister. When he got his theological degree, he went on to become a Baptist minister in Maine and a professor at Colby College. Okay, so by the 1890s, he had written 150 hymns. Okay, quite the prolific songwriter. All right, so by the 1890s, he had written 150 hymns. So he really knew his music, you know.
Was that because his religion didn't have hymns before that? So he just started writing them?
Yeah, basically, right. Just started writing, see what would happen, and poof, it took off. Right, yeah.
Okay, number 9. All righty. So now, which one of the following is true about Andover? D, yes. Okay. So D, all of the above. Okay. So all of those actually took place in Andover. All all right? Important papers and books from the Harvard Library were brought to Andover to keep them safe during the American Revolution, okay? They were brought, I'll be a little more specific, on orders from the provincial Congress, okay? They were getting a little nervioso there, you know, that the Harvard Library might get targeted, you know, by the British. You know, they tended to like burn down buildings, right? Okay. So the provincial Congress ordered that important papers and books be brought to Andover because it was designated a safe area. Okay, so they were brought here in cartloads, horses and carts, okay, to the North Parish homes of Colonel Samuel Osgood, right, a well-known name in North Andover, and Samuel Phillips, a well-known name in Andover, right? But again, you know, one kind of overlapped the other there for a while, right? Okay, so Colonel Osgood and Samuel Phillips. The books and the important papers were brought to their two homes. Okay? And where Powder Mill Square is located now, the condos at Stevens and Main Streets across from McDonald's and Grassfields, right? Okay. Right? The reason it's called Powder Mill Square, as some of you may know, there used to be a gunpowder factory located there, right? Okay. And it was owned by Samuel Phillips. He was very well-rounded. He was into a lot, right? Okay. And it was perhaps Andover's most important contribution to the Revolutionary War effort, okay, supplying the gunpowder to the Continental Army, okay? But I have to tell you, General Washington was not too impressed with the quality of the gunpowder coming out of Andover, though, okay? He thought Samuel Phillips was like trying to cut corners and using cheesy, weakening it, right? Stretching it, right? Okay, right? To try to save money, right? So Washington was not all too happy with the quality of Phillips's gunpowder, okay? But that was the only gunpowder gig going, right? Okay, the one in Andover. So Washington reluctantly had to go with the one in Andover, okay? But what happened was on June 1st, 1778, not surprisingly, when you think, what's that? No, okay. Okay, yeah, no, it's okay, yeah. All right, no, that's not on number 10. Okay. So on June 1st, 1778, there was, not surprisingly, an explosion at the gunpowder mill, all right? And three men were killed in the explosion, and it partially destroyed the mill, okay? So that kind of put the kibosh on that gunpowder factory, all right? So what happened, the general court, the legislature investigated, and they ruled that it was an accident, all right? No sabotage. Some people thought the British might have sabotaged at that time, but no, it was an accident, okay? Mr. Phillips rebuilt it, okay? But then around the same time that he was rebuilding the mill, the war was winding down and then ended. So the demand for gunpowder went down now, okay? So what Mr. Phillips did is he converted it into a paper mill, okay? Which was a little safer, I guess, than a gunpowder mill, okay? Although you could still have accidents at a paper mill, but maybe not as likely or as often as a gunpowder mill, okay? So, and then choice C, I just want to briefly elaborate on that. Lori and I have climbed it a couple of times there, Holt Hill, and on a clear day, okay, it's 420 feet high, okay? It's the highest point in Essex County, all right? And when you climb it, if it's a clear day, you can see the tops of the skyscrapers in Boston, okay, on a clear day, all right? So when the Battle of Bunker Hill was going on and the siege of Charlestown, okay, and you gotta remember, you know, it might seem gruesome, but back then forms of entertainment were quite limited, okay? So this was actually a form of entertainment, all right? A sad way to look at it, but, okay? So people climbed in Andover to the top of Holt Hill, and they could actually see the siege of Charlestown and the Battle of Bunker Hill going on from 420 feet high on the top of Holt Hill in the Ward Reservation, all right? So it's true, you know, the townspeople were able to witness that from afar on June 17th, 1775. All right, so.
Oh, right near Sandy's house, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're on Prospect Road off of Salem Street, where my mother-in-law lives, and you cross over 125, like she was saying there, and you follow Prospect Road there, it spills you onto the Ward Reservation. So, yeah. So if you like hiking, you know, climbing, it's not that bad of a climb, you know. Right, Maury? I didn't think it was that bad when we did it, right? Yeah. Oh, there's a fire tower there, right, yep. So, yep. And last but not least, number 10, which one of the following is not true about Andover? Any guesses? No, not D. No.
Did you just say not me?
Not D.
Okay.
No. I was the second highest vote getter in Andover. A, right. Well, I'll explain.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Caroline got the correct answer. It's A, okay? Contrary to popular belief, okay, Phillips Academy is not the oldest boarding house in the United States, okay? So here's how we determine what's the oldest, okay? And you could say, oh, it's a matter of semantics, but, you know, that's fine. Now, the oldest continually operating co-educational boarding school, okay, in the United States, all right, we got all that? Continually operating co-educational, okay, is called West Nottingham Academy, okay? West Nottingham Academy, it's in Maryland, all right, and it has been around since 1744. Quite old, okay? 1744, okay? Yeah, in Maryland. Yep. All right. Now, here we go, right? Here's some more now to add to that, okay? The oldest continuously operating boarding school in the United States, regardless of gender, okay, is not too far from here either. Well, not too far from here. It's called the Governor's Academy, right? Formerly known as Governor Dummer Academy, right? Okay. Then several years ago, not surprisingly, they changed the name, right? So now it's Governor's Academy in Byfield, okay? That goes back to 1763. Okay.
All boys.
All boys, right, okay. Now, Phillips Academy in Andover, okay, that was not founded by Samuel Phillips until 1778. Okay? And of course, it would have been just boys. Initially, Abbott Academy would have been just for girls. 1973, they merged, right? Now it's co-ed. And if you're wondering about Phillips Exeter, that came 3 years after Phillips Andover, all right? So 1781 for Exeter, yes.
I thought it was the other way around.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
Okay. So, and William Poor did have a wagon factory right off of Shawshing Square, what's now Shawshing Square, right? And he was an abolitionist, so he got very creative, okay? And he built like these false bottomed wagons to hide runaway slaves, okay? As they were trying to make their way north way up into New Hampshire or Canada, he helped them, not all the way, but part of the way on their journey, okay? And then C, I told you about already. I guess, yeah, I did kind of give it away there, okay? And then D, some of you know I'm an elected official now in Andover, okay? It's an unpaid position, it's volunteer, that's fine. So I'm a trustee of the Punch and Free School. Basically, teachers at Andover High School who want to do special projects with their students, but they don't get money from the school department, they apply to us for funds, okay? We gave away like $16,000 this spring to teachers at the high school for special projects. And we also give out scholarships to graduating seniors at Andover High as well. Okay. Well, thank you, Carol. Thank you. Yes. So it's a fund that was established by Benjamin Punchett in 1850 in his will. He was a local industrialist. So this money now that we give, it's from his will that has obviously accumulated interest all these years. Okay. So, and by the way, one thing I forgot to mention. My items in my collection to do with Andover. If you haven't seen them already, they're up front here on display. Just letting me the banner first. Okay. Take a look if you'd like, but those are items from my collection that I